please note that the event will start in approximately 3 minutes. The event will start shortly. Hello, everybody. My name is Bogdan Banu, and I am the president and founder of Romanians of DC. I want to welcome everyone to today's interesting event that we have planned for you. It's a virtual book launch that we are doing with Mari Calai. This event is being organized in partnership with Bucharest Inside the Beltway and ARCS, the American Romanian Cultural Society from Seattle. I have here also, along with Mari, the president of these two organizations. And just to give you guys a quick run of show and a few admin things before we actually get into the conversation, I will invite everyone to turn on your camera if you would like to do so. We are, right now, we're asking everybody to stay on mute. We will allow everyone to unmute themselves when we get to the Q&A session, and we hope we'll have a lively discussion afterwards. Also, as a reminder that this event is being broadcast live on Facebook. And since I'm doing multiple duties, I will have to also make sure I admit everybody who's waiting to join us. I did wanted to just say a few words about Romanians of DC. Also turn it over to Cristina to talk a little bit about Bucharest Inside a Beltway and Otilia before we give the microphone to our main guest, Mari Calai. First of all, just for those who may not be familiar with Romanians of DC, we are a community organization based in Washington, DC. We're a non-for-profit organization founded in 2017. We really cover primarily the Washington, DC metropolitan area, and we have somewhere around 2,000 members. We are really working to promote Romanian culture and traditions to a wider American public, and at the same time to bring together the Romanian and Moldovans who live in the greater Washington, DC metropolitan area. I don't want to go too much. For those who would like to learn more about Romanians of DC, you can certainly visit our website and also our Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cristina to let her talk a little bit about Bucharest Inside the Beltway and their projects in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. It's a pleasure to see you. Congratulations, Mari. I've been a big fan of your work, as you know, for a long time. And briefly, what is Bucharest Inside the Beltway? We are a Romania-inspired arts and culture collective. We were conceived as an idea in Bucharest, Romania in 2008, and we came to life in Washington, DC in 2013. And since then, we have been an artistic platform and also a production vehicle for all kinds of artistic events, theater, art exhibits, dance, spoken word poetry. My announcement is Amanda Andre, who is a Romanian Filipina American playwright, has just joined the team. And that is because we are having our Denver launch this summer, which will be an international playwriting residency. So we will be worldwide now because of the Zoom universe. You may have seen us on social media. We've had this amazing partnership with the Romanian Cultural Institute, a literary series called Romanian Women Voices. Please tune in. And finally, we are a platform for Romanian American, and local and international artists. If you want to promote your work, please reach out, and I really mean that. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, yes, and also our website, bibdenver.com. So thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. Otilia, if you want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing out in Seattle.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Bogdan. Happy to be here with Christine before. I'm grateful in a way for this virtual, format, because we formed so many friendships across the US and internationally. So the American Romanian Cultural Society was founded 8 years ago. I was born in Romania, immigrated 20 years ago, and I used to be in faculty in the French department, and there was not much, there was not a lot on Romania, because, as you know, and we're probably going to talk about the fact that Romanian is a Romance language surrounded by Slavic languages. So there was not much going on Romania at the university. And because Seattle is the home of Seattle International Film Festival, that is the largest international film festival in the US, we decided to form the organization and to start with the Romanian Film Festival that is going to be in its 8th edition this year. And so this is our signature event. Since then, we organized a lot of cultural events in Romanian, but also book launches in English. We promoted Romanian authors from North America. And we also founded the first secular Romanian heritage language and culture school. And I'm very happy that today I have some of my students here who are very excited to hear about DOR, because we talked about it in our classes, and they are taking an interesting class funded by the Washington State Department of Education, and it's a unique program. And they're gonna create a website where they reflect on their bicultural identity and on their heritage language. And I told them they absolutely have to write about DOR. So they have to be here today. And for those who are not here, I'm happy that there is a recording. So we will be talking about this event in our class. And we're very grateful, Mari, for your work. And we're looking forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Otilia. And just wanted to briefly introduce Mari. Full disclosure, I've actually known Mari for a little while, having having been an active member of the Romanian American community here in Washington, D.C. She was actually one of the photographers for the Universal Day of the Romanian Blouse, one of our signature events here in Washington, D.C. That we organize each year in June 24th. And Mari very graciously came in and took some photos in one of those days. But Mari is originally from Romania. She is actually sort of an international traveler, having lived in Italy, obviously in the United States, as I mentioned, but also in Korea. She has been an artist for the past 10 years, and is an international award-winning photographer, an avid painter, and had exhibitions in Seoul, here in Washington, D.C. She's a mixed media artist, and one of her previous books was called Adagio, and I actually have a very wonderful copy of her book. And, you know, there's a saying that, you know, a picture, it's 1,000 words. So this is a very dense book in that case, because they're very wonderful photos. And I think just the type of illustration that she has in her book sort of speaks to her talent. And it was something that was very readily recognized in Korea, where her book was officially published. She got a lot of coverage, and actually there were 2 exhibitions that were based on the book that she had put together. So I have my new book, Door on Order. I'm waiting for it to come. I'm sure it will be a great success. But with that, Mari, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you tell us a little bit about what got you to create a book about Door. Remember to unmute yourself though.
Oh, hi. Can I just stay here and listen to you guys? Thank you so much. Hello, bună seara, good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I'm actually quite nervous and happy in the meantime to see so many of you here. Thank you, Bogdan, Christina, and Otilia for this amazing opportunity. I would like to start also with thanking Lynn Redeka, who's here. Hi, Lynn. And also Berna Mew. They helped me tremendous with this book. But I would also like to thank all the people who contributed with their personal stories, including you, Bogdan, of Door. I think this book is wonderful because of the stories in this book, more than because of my photos. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening your own hearts and sending me this these beautiful stories and these definitions of Door. I could start by telling you why did I choose the word door and not longing, which is maybe the first word that we could think of to translate door. The concept kind of started a little more than a year ago, which is not a long time to make a book. But I was in Korea with the photographer, some photographer friends, and somebody asked, how would you photograph an emotion like fear? How would you photograph fear? Well, like, what would you photograph? So that's when I had the seed. That's when I started to think about it. And they asked me, what would you photograph? What kind of emotion or feeling would you photograph if you had to pick one? And the first word and thing that I thought was dor. It was in Romanian, it was not in English. And maybe because I'm Romanian and Romanian is my native language, I'm sure that's why I thought of dor. So, I started to think about how and what can I photograph to describe this feeling. And it wasn't easy, but I think perhaps my life experiences and the fact that I'm here, the fact that I'm away from Romania, maybe all this helped. And I think the fact that I, at the time, sometimes last year, I bought a film camera, a Rolleiflex. I remember just kind of staring at it, and I said, you know what, I'm going to buy it. I used to shoot with a small format camera, but I said, well, let me try this medium format camera. And the way Rolleiflex works, it's a twin reflex camera, so the image is upside down. So it kind of forces you to take your time before you take a photo. So I started to take photos with my Rolleiflex, and I started to have more and more photos, and I was happy with them. And they spoke to me as this is Dor. And basically, these photos are photos of things around me that at the moment I felt present, and I felt that I had longing for something or somebody, past moments of my life, maybe, many things. So Dor comes from the Latin word dolus, right? And it's such a complex concept. It is translatable, but in Romanian, it can have so many meanings. For example, in Portuguese, they say saudade, which they translate as bittersweet. So Dor can be bitter or sweet or bittersweet. I will just jump in and read a few stories from here, or definitions of Dor. I love the fact that when I posted on social media, I asked people, what is Dor to you? And I had many people telling me their own version of Dor. And I just loved it. That's when I decided to make this book, not only a photo book, but also a book with words. So I made this format instead of landscape. So I will read. Okay, I will read this. I will start with this. Dor remains unaffected by progress because it is altogether timeless. It rises up from within and pulls us deep into memory at the core of our soul. It is more than mere longing, as some have said, because longing often has something external as its object. But Dor is something that rises from deep within us. Nicolai wrote this, and it's just beautiful, and it's so complex, and it makes you think. Dor is not just longing. It made me meditate a lot when Nicolai said. I really like this. Next, I will read. Oh, I love this. Adina wrote this. And I will read it in Romanian because I just feel like for some reason it sounds, I just could not translate it. I could not find the right words. Mi-e dor și de praful de pe marginea drumului, drumul ce duce la Cluj. I miss even the dust on the side of the road that brings to Cluj. Cluj-Napoca is a beautiful city in Romania. And here, you know, you miss a place so much that you even miss the dust on the side of the road. I love this. Thank you, Adina. And I will read one more. Tudor Mușăteanu is a Romanian poet. And he said, când se dor de cineva, să nu închizi ochii, o să-ți fie și mai dor. When you miss somebody, don't close your eyes. You'll miss them even more. And it's true, right? Have you ever tried to close your eyes and while you miss somebody, it's you miss them even more. So don't close your eyes if you don't want to miss them. So there are many other beautiful stories. I won't read them all. This is my book. I could talk forever about the concept, about you know, longing for. There's longing for many things. Longing for your country where you were born. It seems that it's one of the most complex longing, because it's not only door for people or places or childhood memories or smells or foods, it's everything. So we could talk about this a lot. But this is it. If you guys have any questions, I would love to answer.
I'm gonna use my sort of prerogative as the moderator to open up the Q&A. And first, thank you so much for sharing this and for opening up. I will say that, you know, and you saw this, we had a conversation with someone on Facebook when we posted this who said that dor is not unique to Romanian. It's not something that it's in other languages as well. And you mentioned it, the word itself, can be translated, but what the word itself encompasses as a sort of as a concept, that what it becomes a little bit more tricky to get across in another language, because in one word in Romanian, you can encapsulate so many emotions and so many things. And that's what probably you would miss with translation in another language. And I did a little bit of an exercise before coming to this discussion. For those who may not know, dor is probably one of the most common group name for folk groups, folk dances, especially in diaspora, they name themselves Dor Ardelean or Dor something. It's a word that you'll find across in many names. And I think in itself, it's a reflection of how people relate to that word and what it evokes for them. And I try to do the same to see if in Portuguese, because that was one of the examples that was given, if the word dor, which exists in Portuguese, it's also reflected in the same way. Are there any bands, any folk groups that are named dor in Portuguese? And truth be told, I couldn't find any of them. Now, I might not be the best Google searcher in Portuguese, but I think that sort of illustrated a little bit about how unique in a way dor is to Romanians. And I think why it's often seen in one of those lists of words that are, I would say, hard to translate from Romanian. And you will see those often, quite often on the internet. But Mari, my question to you is, what is dor to you? And is this something that it's illustrated in your book and it's left for us to discover, or is it maybe something that you want to share with us here as well?
This is dor to me.
You want to talk a little bit about what that?
I don't think everything is in the book, but I try to put a big part of it in this book. It's a really special project for me. I can't tell you how happy I am that I did this in such a short time also. And door for me is many things, many memories, a lot of people, a lot of things that I love. Many childhood memories, places I went, people I met. I have door for the future too, because I'm excited about things I'm working on, future projects. The door also causes me pain sometimes because, you know, I miss my family in Romania. And that's the beauty of it, I think. It's not only one emotion, it's everything, it's a lot. It makes us think. I found something actually this morning, something interesting about, I was reading about door and nostalgia, because it could also be translated as nostalgia, but not quite, it's not quite the same thing. For example, in psychoanalysis, door evokes memories of our own childhood, and that can help us recognize some things that we're not aware of, and which might trigger into some new ways of self-discovery. And this made me meditate a little bit. And it's true, when we miss something, it makes us think, why do we miss it? And can we have that thing again back in our life? So door is complex, but this is a book with I would say my photos are quiet and the words are loud. And it could be read with a cup of coffee or with a cup of wine. My hope is that people will feel door, will feel longing for something or somebody. And if they do that, the best thing is that if they give this book to that person, maybe.
Thank you. I think I'm gonna let Cristina and Otilia ask, and then some questions. And then for anyone else who would like to ask a question, I've turned on the ability to unmute yourselves. I will ask, if you don't mind, to raise your hand, just so we try to keep it a little bit organized in terms of who will go next. That's a feature at the bottom of your screen. But I don't know, Otilia, you want to go next?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for sharing the few images. I'm so curious now. I'm going to pre-order the book. Can you tell us more about the process of how did you work with the text and the pictures that you took? You mentioned a few authors. How was how did you get to the best combination between words and image? And are you satisfied, like 100% satisfied? Since door is so difficult to capture, you mentioned nostalgia. Nostalgia comes from going home, that feeling of you want to go home, but with door, we never have that closure because it seems like you never get there. Mm-hmm. It's the feeling of wanting to get home, but you never really get there. So this is like an unfinished feeling. And I think probably that's why it's difficult to translate. So
Right. It wasn't easy. At first, I wanted to match the photograph with the words. And then I changed my mind. I said, no, I will do exactly the opposite. Because a photograph can speak to a person something else than what the words say. And I like that. I mean, we, and when I say we, I mean me and Lynn and Belnam, who helped me edit and curate this book. It was a long process, but I'm happy. I'm happy with the results.
So you basically had the text first, and then you kind of looked for the picture?
No. First, I think I had the pictures. I had the photos first. And then I started to post some photos on social media, and I asked people, what is door for you? And people wrote, this is door. Some other people shared with me, you know, in private. And then I asked them if I could share this in the book. And they said, yes, that would be my honor. Actually, it's my honor. So again, thank you to all who added these stories here. So this is
fantastic. It's a collaboration. It's a collaborative product, actually. So how many authors of texts do you have?
Well, I can't tell you.
In the book? No.
Okay. A full hand of people. Yeah. Quite a few, maybe 10, 15, 20.
So were they mainly Romanians or?
No. So there are Romanians, Americans, somebody from Italy, somebody from Korea, Romanian Americans. Yeah.
This is fascinating. I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you.
Christina, do you want to?
Congratulations, Mari. That was wonderful. And I myself cannot wait to order the book. So I remember when you put that call out, and I was so excited to put you in touch with a certain somebody that I believe you shared a little bit.
Yes.
What he shared.
Yes.
And that actually relates to my question, because he and I, the way that we met, and this can be, you know, ambiguous to the rest of the audience. I'm not going to talk in detail about this person, but we're both Romanian American, but removed enough to have not been raised speaking Romanian. Mm-hmm. And so my question for you is the meaning of Dor now as a heritage speaker, which I feel like I really get what Dor is. So what your thoughts are on that? First question. And then the second question is, maybe Dor is a feeling that so many more Americans who aren't Romanian, I mean, from all over the world, because this is such an assimilated culture that so many people don't actually know where their family is from in the first place. So maybe there is a sense of Dor in terms of this longing to actually know, which I think that we're having more and more of these days, this curiosity about where, I mean, white America is originally from. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like a two-barreled, very vague question to get your thoughts.
I think everybody has Dor. I really do. They maybe don't know. Yeah, I'm absolutely positive that everybody has Dor. And I'm happy to see when you know, other people who are not Romanians or Romanian Americans, they're curious about other cultures and, you know, learning about, especially about such a concept, longing. We all have longing for something or somebody. So yes, thank you for putting me in contact with Nicolae. That it was great to learn from him about his experience, you know, missing Romania and living here. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And he's just an incredible example of somebody who has thrown himself into his Romanian roots and made it work for him in his American situation. Mm-hmm. So it is possible.
Well, I could say the same because yes, I could, and I could definitely relate to that because you know, my life is here in America. I'm a Romanian American, and I have to make it work. Both, you know, both sides. I have to embrace both. but I'm happy that I could bring this in front of people and say, this is Dor, this is Romanian Dor. But it, you know, even if the title here is not dolus or dolor in Spanish or longing, it could be anything. This is just my interpretation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I think Amelia is the first person who I think has her raised. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Hi, Mary. You know I'd have something to say.
Yes. Amelia is my darkroom friend. And by the way, speaking of all my darkroom group, Tom and everybody, thank you so much for the support. Yes. Hi, Ben.
I had to be nosy, Mary, because you did send me a little tiny preview of just one page from your book. And I had to ask you, I was like the most perfect choice of a photo.
Really?
And yeah, and
so I would match with yours.
Yeah, and I figured I'd ask you not privately, but with the group, because the first few questions seemed to sort of surround the, did you get the story? Did you get the photo? Did you have the picture that you knew you wanted to use and had to find the right words? Or did you get this gathering of words and then somehow you had some work already? But of all the pictures that you picked, I don't know if it's because you know me, but it's the one I was like looking at in the darkroom once even with you, I think, right?
Yeah.
It just reminds me of an enchanted forest, which then when I saw that you ended up using one of my thoughts of Dor, which when you put it up on Facebook, what struck a chord with me was that level of nostalgia, which is why I said what I said when I thought of Dor, because I was thinking, you know, with nostalgia and looking back, but like you said, you can still look to the future, you know, because that was part of our conversation too, is would you ever go back? And I'm like, I'd love to go back to the forest and the property that I grew up on, and love to find some of those places again in the future. Like, you know, I love the picture you chose. I couldn't believe how perfectly it fit, but also to what other people were sort of talking about and what it means. I'm dying to ask you, how long did it take for you to decide you were going to use that description of it? Not
long. I mean, it was hard to pick the photos and match them with the words, but most of the times I think I went with my instinct. When I had the photo because I took it in Death Valley last November, and you gave me this recently, and I don't know, they just mirrored each other. They just mirrored each other.
No, it was so great though. As soon as I thought I saw it, I smiled, and I'm like, I saw that print in the darkroom probably months after you even decided it was going to go with that quote, and you never said anything. But it's just so funny that even in my head I was like, oh, that's like the brambles from Sleeping Beauty, that's an enchanted forest, and it just matched my thought so perfectly that I couldn't believe you'd pulled that off. So I can't wait to see the rest of the book, because
I'm glad you liked it, and maybe it did match it, the pictures. I don't know, I kind of want to leave it you know, I don't want to say, I don't want to say everything about the book.
And you can't, but at the same time, I'm curious to see all those different layers of what everyone's sort of been talking about with what it means. It's so multidimensional. I'm sort of curious to see if I see some of the things that are in your book, like what it makes me think of. And like you said, not just thinking in the past, but thinking in the future. It's really such a good point.
Thank you.
So I had to tell you, I'm so excited.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Felicia also has a raised hand. Felicia.
Yeah, thanks, Bogdan. Thanks for organizing, and thanks, Mari, for being here. This is very exciting. I'm looking forward to, you know, having your book, and I understand you don't want to reveal too much of it. So, but thanks for the nice description so far. I'd like to shift focus though to your future projects, if that's fine. In particular, I'm curious about the projects that are related to this one, you just mentioned that DOOR will have an imprint on your future underboard. So I was wondering, what are those, if you can provide a bit of more details about that. Thanks.
Sure. I have a few projects I'm thinking about for the future, and one of them is a book about Romania. And I'm not sure exactly what and when, but I know that I want to go back to Romania with my camera and kind of start from there. That is one of the projects. Another one, I also paint, so I'm thinking about some themes to put on a canvas, a few canvases.
Thanks, that's interesting. If I may follow up on that, it's, you know, you say a book about Romania. I'm not sure what and how. Is this your approach to books, to writing? You sort of have a general idea of what you...
Yeah, usually it starts with...
As you get closer, you might zoom in. Sorry, my husband is fighting with my dog, so I apologize for the background noise. Yeah, so...
Usually it starts with an idea, yes. At least for me so far, the first book was about my children, and I knew I wanted, you know, to capture them for a couple of years and then make a book, eventually a book. That wasn't my initial plan, but the most important thing is to have inspiration. And then if a book comes out, it's great. Bresson is a French famous photographer. He said that a book is a permanent exhibition. And I just love this. When I heard that, you know, it's a lot of work, but I think it's worth it. And for me, it's so rewarding, even if this book sells or not. I think it's great. I'm very, very grateful for all the help and for the inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see someone else is unmuted. Bennett, please.
Mari, congratulations.
Hi, so glad to see you.
There's been a lot of talk about words in this presentation,
yes.
And you know, DOOR.
Yes. And you speak many languages, so.
Well, yeah, and DOOR is this. It's obviously a Latin word. DOOR in Portuguese is pain. Spanish, dolor, pain, douleur. And that's why saudade exists, because it's a separate concept than pain. So my first question was going to be, if you have a headache, and what do you say in Romanian?
You say mă doare.
Yeah, okay, so it's different. Anyway, we all have this idea. But getting back to photography. So growing up in Romania, for any of you Romanians, you know, what was fine arts photography growing up? What did you see? What did you not get to see? What your first familiarity with photography when you were young, what was it? As a young
for me, it was television through movies. And then later on, maybe my first memory is high school, college. I mean, we were, you know, making photographs with a film camera. But I'm trying to think, fine art photography.
But you felt like you were part of the great European or world tradition, or did you feel that somehow you were constrained because of the regime?
Oh, absolutely. I think we were constrained because of the regime. Yeah, absolutely. That's another big conversation.
I know.
Yeah. I didn't, I wasn't taking pictures when I was, 8, 10, 15. I started this later in life. Actually, I picked up a camera seriously 13 years ago when my daughter was born. So I haven't been an artist ever since I was, 3. So.
But that was, for all of, and I would invite I'd be curious to hear what any of the Romanians have to say. I mean, that was the famous remark of Philip Roth, right? That in the West, everything goes and nothing counts.
Nothing counts?
Everything goes and nothing counts. Mm-hmm. And behind the Iron Curtain, nothing goes and everything counts. So that's always been, and because I've spent time there too, living and working, that's always so interesting to me, what art is, dor and art, and what it means for someone who has lived in both worlds.
Good question. What is art? That's actually a very hard question. I mean, it's what
or your art, I should say, for you. Yeah. It doesn't. You don't need to speak.
It's something that moves me. It's something that moves me. It's a photograph, a painting, a word. It's the smell of a beautiful, delicious, food, people. Everything around me is art. This chair, somebody made this chair, made this art. I don't think it's as complicated and, fancy as we make it sound. I think we're surrounded by art and dor. It's always around us. And sometimes we push it. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to feel it because it hurts. It hurts. And sometimes it makes us explode of happiness. So it's kind of like art, right? Dor. Did I answer your question, Ben?
I mean, there is no answer to that question.
There's no answer. Yeah.
Just commenting.
But thank you for this question. And I will keep thinking about it and we'll keep discussing in the dark room with the group. Thank you.
Mari, I wanted to ask something because nobody else has asked that question, but I know I have your previous book and it's a black and white photography book. And from the photos I've seen from this book, they're also black and white. You want to talk a little bit about why you choose in particular that medium? And it may have to do with the camera, but I don't think this was shot with a camera that was a black and white camera. So
no, that was digital.
Yeah, so I'm curious why that. For
why
me,
black and white?
Yeah,
yes.
and to Bennett's point earlier, when I was growing up in communist Romania, I had a camera and it was difficult to actually get a film developed somewhere. And I actually had a darkroom in my bathroom where I learned how to mix chemistry and get the photos developed. But I'm curious, is that part of the reason, do you think? Because that was the photography we were all used to in our childhood, or is it more to it?
Good question. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I've always had this struggle between black and white photography and color photography, especially when I was shooting digital, and I still do. But, I would take the photograph in color and then I would edit it in black and white. And it's just the way I see it. It's, for me, a black and white photograph extracts the how would I say, it's naked. It makes the photograph naked, if it makes sense. But you made me think of something else now. Maybe because my world back then was black and white. But still, I choose black and white over color. In my photographs, in my paintings, I choose very, very, very colorful abstracts.
Thank you. I think we have just a few minutes. I don't know if I see Diana has her raised hand.
Diana, hi.
But if anybody else would like to ask a question, please raise your hand so we know we can count you in before we wrap this up. Diana, please unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Mari, thank you so much for your book. I can't wait to see all of it. I've only seen the stuff you shared with me and it's looking fantastic. My question to you is, when did your journey as an artist and as a photographer start? Did you study that in Romania, or is this something that happened later in life after you left?
It happened later in life. I started to take pictures 13 years ago. I slowly progressed. And I'm here today, and I still feel like I'm learning. And I love the fact that there's always to learn in art. Always, always. And I'm so excited about what else can I learn about it. So I have Dor, mi Dor. Thank you.
I don't know if there are any other last questions, but I do want to thank everybody who joined us on Zoom. Also, all of those who have followed us live on Facebook. And I saw a few comments of people saying that it's 3 a.m. in Romania and they stood up this late to actually watch you, Mari. So I think that speaks to
I didn't open Facebook. My Facebook is closed. Because I didn't want to get distracted.
And I will, before we go off, I will share a screen at the end where, for those who are interested, who have not yet ordered Mari's book, may do so on her website. And again, thank you, Mari, for creating this wonderful book. We feel lucky to have you here in our community here in Washington, D.C. And taking advantage of this pandemic to actually be able to share this with such a wide audience across the country, and to be able to do this with Christina and with Otilia, but with many others around the U.S. And I want to thank them as well for being so willing to be co-host of this event and for spreading the good word about your wonderful book to their local communities.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. And we look forward to having you at other events. And please remember to order Mari's book right here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.